Our News is brought to you by Alive.
Tonight on Our News, the Prime Minister shrugs off questions about the next general election. Our Kyle Joaquin speaks with the former DPM about his current relationship with the Prime Minister. Plus, families forced to make tough sacrifices just to get by. Welcome to Our News and thanks for joining us. I'm Christina Dragovich. Topping news tonight, as he nears the end of his second term in Parliament, Peter Turnquest is preparing to say farewell to frontline politics. In an interview with our Kyle Joaquin, Turnquest explains what led to his decision to withdraw his candidacy and exactly where he stands with the Prime Minister and the FNM.
The Prime Minister has an opinion. He is one man. Obviously, his opinion carries weight as he is the leader of the team. But he is still, at the end of the day, one vote.
Not going into detail about his private conversation with the Prime Minister that led to his decision to withdraw his candidacy for the Free National Movement in East Grand Bahama, Peter Turnquest says there is a party process that has to be followed when selecting a candidate and not just the leader's decision. However, he's comfortable with the middle ground they've reached. Turnquest on Wednesday night released a statement making the announcement, but it came just days after he confirmed that the Prime Minister informed him he would not get the FNM's nomination, leaving many to ask what really happened.
A discussion that I had with the Prime Minister and a private WhatsApp that I had shared with very few people was somehow leaked and as a result caused some confusion. You know, I'm not going to certainly talk about the private conversations that we would have had. I will say this, that the Prime Minister has a view, as everybody is entitled to their view. We shared our various thoughts, and we are comfortable and where we've arrived at.
Turnquest resigned from his post as Minister of Finance and Deputy Prime Minister after being embroiled in a controversy surrounding allegations of fraud. He has since denied those allegations as the matter proceeds in court.
I do not want these private matters to distract or to become a lightning rod for the opposition or during the campaign, because again, we have very significant issues in this country that we need to focus on.
In the meantime, Turnquest remains the FNM's deputy leader and said he will campaign on behalf of whomever gets the party's nomination for East Grand Bahama. But political observers also questioned Turnquest's thoughts after the recent developments, considering he was one of few FNM MPs who stood by Minis' side when he was ousted as opposition leader in 2016. So, where exactly does Peter Turnquest and Hubert Minis stand?
We have no issues. I certainly will support him in the next election, and I believe he'll be successful.
Turnquest now preparing to move forward with his private life, but says he is committed to his continued service to his constituents. We also asked him if he could go back while serving as a cabinet minister. What would he have done differently?
If there is a regret that I have, is that we still do politics in a very tribal way. It's so personal, and as a result, a lot of good people with good ideas do not get involved in this business. And that's unfortunate.
As for what he would want to be remembered for in his time in public life,
I'd like to be remembered as somebody who has made a contribution, who was committed to transparency, to accountability.
Now, regardless of what happened, Turnquest says he still supports the FNM and remains a member of the party, as well as the deputy leader of the party, at least until the party's next convention. But for now, reporting for Our News, I'm Kyle Joaquin.
Prime Minister Dr. Hubert Minis shrugging off questions from reporters today about the upcoming general election. While walking through McLeanstown in East Grand Bahama, Minis was asked when more Free National Movement candidates would be ratified and if there's a snap election on the horizon.
Well, I don't know yet. I don't even know when the election. Which is another thing. The election is officially due in May 2022.
There's also been some talks of a snap election.
Oh, I haven't heard it.
Members of the Progressive Liberal Party have speculated that Minis may be gearing up to call an early election, though he has repeatedly said otherwise. The F&M ratified 17 candidates last week, with Minis saying some current F&M MPs would not be given a nomination. Meanwhile, curfew on Grand Bahama is expected to go from 10 to 11 p.m. by the end of the week, according to Prime Minister Dr. Minis, who toured several facilities on Grand Bahama this afternoon. He says the island has been doing extremely well in recent weeks in the COVID fight, and there will be further easing of restrictions soon.
I've discussed with health, and I know the curfew in Grand Bahama is at 10 o'clock, and sometime this weekend or this week, we should be able to move Grand Bahama to 11 o'clock, and I think that would be very helpful, especially for the restaurants.
Grand Bahama confirmed one new COVID-19 case today and has 2 cases currently in hospital. The island's numbers have drastically dropped since its last spike a few months ago.
Grand Bahama continue as is, the mitigation protocols of COVID. I expect that Grand Bahama will be freed up even more. I won't care to say at this particular point in time the liberalization, but there will be some more liberalization getting Grand Bahama ready.
The merits of the Grand Lucayan deal are under review to ensure that the government gets the most out of it, according to the Prime Minister, who tells reporters that while many have expressed disappointment that the hotel has still not reopened, professionals have been brought on to take a look at the agreement.
We have had professionals come in and review the agreements that we're negotiating and moving towards to ensure that it's compliant with international standards, and we're getting the best price that we possibly can at this particular point in time. And I'm satisfied that we have professionals reviewing that. And my understanding is that is moving progressively well.
Minis says while he can't give a date for that to be completed, by the time as the country comes out of the COVID era, the Grand Lucayan will be open. Government purchased the Grand Lucayan for $65 million in August 2018. Holistica, a joint company of RCI and ITM, plans to redevelop the property and reconstruct a new cruise port. Minis admits that after the review, details of the deal may look different due to the pandemic.
We've had professionals who reviewed terms throughout the world. Then you have to take the devastation that COVID would have caused to the world economy. So many, what you may have gotten pre-COVID, you may not necessarily be able to get post-COVID. So we're caught with the world dilemma.
Well, residents of Fowler Street and other inner-city communities have been hit hard by the pandemic as many remain unemployed. Jared Higgs tells us living in cars has become the norm for some.
Curtis Thompson fights back tears as he tells us about his current living situation.
Currently, standing van right there. Been there about 3 weeks now.
The 36-year-old roadside vendor and father of 2 is living in a car on Fowler Street in front of a music maker's Junkanoo shack. He admits that even a tough person like him can become overwhelmed as tears build up in the corner of his eyes.
I was living in a condemned building for 2 years now. I had to come over there.
Thompson, a lifelong resident of Fowler Street, says conditions in the community have worsened since last March when the economy took a devastating downward turn. Minister of Labour Dion Folks told reporters this week that he believes that unemployment is down, but it's unclear what figures there are to back up the claim. Thompson puts on his shades and tells us he's going through the toughest period of his life. He certainly isn't employed and realizes he may need to employ himself.
I own my own business. I want some employees under my belt. I want to live better than this.
Thompson isn't the only one living in his car. Many people are struggling under the weight of the pandemic. We met a skilled electrician who's living in his vehicle.
These people are on pension or in working, waiting for the hotel to open. But me, I live in my car.
In the wake of Hurricane Dorian and the COVID-19 pandemic, many are relying on aid and organizations like the Family Help and Support Foundation, which goes door to door, providing groceries for more than 100 families per week. Organization rep Kajima Ellis says the welfare checks have been startling.
COVID has exposed a level of poverty in the country that I didn't even know existed. And I've been all over the world traveling and seen it all. And, it's disheartening sometimes to see some of the things that you see here in Nassau.
Thompson is nursing a broken leg, so that's tough on him too. Despite his depressing circumstances, he's motivated by his love for family, rushing, and football.
All I can use a little jungle right now. I just bring us together. Jungle bring us together. Thanks for
Reporting for our news, I'm Jared Higgs.
Thanks, Jared. Well, we saw mostly sunny skies in the capital today. Greg Thompson is in the Weather Center with the details.
Thanks, Christina. Our first look at weather tonight is being brought to you by Ports International for all your medical supplies and equipment needs. Warm day around the islands once again. Our temperatures managed to get up into the 80s. We are now settling back into the 70s. Still warm outside. A few clouds. Winds are out of the southeast at about 8 knots. Feels like 74 degrees, so still a warm evening setting up on the outdoors. Beautiful conditions around the islands on our satellite view. Stiff east to southeasterly flow, bringing some clouds across our area. We saw a couple of small sprinkles earlier today, but those winds will continue to bring some more clouds across our area. That's your first look at weather. Your extended forecast is still to come.
When our news returns, why teachers are unsure about schools reopening and the latest on Grand Bahamas Airport. That's coming up when our news returns.
Welcome to our news and thanks for joining us. Topping news tonight.
COVID-19 remains a serious threat.
Coronavirus COVID-19 has disrupted our economy, tourism industry, educational system, and put our healthcare facilities and professionals on high alert. Are you prepared? Do you have all the facts? Stay tuned to this network for the very latest news and information on this global pandemic.
The revelation that public schools could reopen by February 22nd coming as a shock to the Bahamas Union of Teachers, according to President Belinda Wilson. Berthany McDermott reports.
The news that the Ministry of Education is aiming for a February 22nd reopening of schools taking Bahamas Union of Teachers President Belinda Wilson by surprise. This as she says she was advised that that date is midterm break. Wilson added that there are a number of concerns that still need to be addressed.
So we're asking for the desk in the classrooms to be no less than 3 feet apart. We're asking for a barrier to be placed around teachers' desks or workstations. What we also are asking is once the students have been placed in each class, where will the overflow or the additional students be placed?
On Wednesday, Education Minister Jeffrey Lloyd told reporters that his ministry's position is to have a phased reopening. He said some schools are going to be ready earlier than others and added it is based on a number of factors, including faculty, the readiness of the environment, and school repairs. Wilson said the union is unclear about on-campus COVID-19 protocols.
We want the schools to be clean, sanitized, and disinfected. We're asking for signage at the schools that are children friendly or school age appropriate. We need to know for sure what is the protocol on the use of masks at school, and has the provision been made as yet? Are the PPEs, hand sanitizers, gloves, gowns, are they presently at the schools?
The Teachers Union president said there is uncertainty over the hybrid model Lloyd spoke of.
We are still uncertain as to which schools have adequate internet access that will be able to accommodate teaching and learning while you're on the hybrid method or mode. And the Ministry of Education has not presented a modified syllabus.
Thousands of students have not been on campus since schools were shut down in March 2020 when the Bahamas confirmed its first case of COVID-19. Reporting for Our News, I'm Berthany McDermott.
In other news, Cabinet is set to discuss the acquisition of the Grand Bahama International Airport and the details of the deal, according to Prime Minister Dr. Hubert Minis. Government has been in talks with the owners, the Hutchinson Group, since Hurricane Dorian in 2019.
My understanding is all the paperwork is completed, and that will be brought to Cabinet on Tuesday, at which time Cabinet would deliberate on it. We're prepared at this time to take over and we were moving the management team in place. Once the management team in place, then we take over and move forward with that.
Still to come, how one doctor is saving lives one heart at a time, plus the latest from the world of sports. Stay with us.
Welcome to our news and thanks for joining us. Topping news tonight.
COVID-19 remains a serious threat.
Coronavirus COVID-19 has disrupted our economy, tourism industry, educational system, and put our healthcare facilities and professionals on high alert. Are you prepared? Do you have all the facts? Stay tuned to this network for the very latest news and information on this global pandemic.
This is our news. Welcome back. The government officially launching the National Cybersecurity Project, pledging to have a national cybersecurity strategy and an incident response team established by the third quarter of this year. Officials partnering with the International Telecommunications Union to complete the project, which is expected to take 2 years to fully implement and is being facilitated through the Inter-American Development Bank. The project will cost an estimated $400,000.
The main object of this project is to assist the Bahamas in assessing our current cybersecurity capabilities, develop a national cybersecurity strategy, and establish the National Computer Incident Response Team, or the CIRT, to serve as a trusted central coordination point of contact for cybersecurity aimed at identifying, defending, responding, and managing cyber threats.
According to ICT Indicators Database 2020, the Bahamas ranked 133 out of 193 countries worldwide on cybersecurity. Minister of State for Finance Kwesi Thompson says not only will the project improve the country's international ranking, it will also provide a safety net for government, businesses, and the wider community from cyber threats.
There's no question. I mean, the ITU has an index, and the Bahamas is not where we would like to be. I mean, I think that's the whole purpose behind why we are implementing the CERT and why we are moving ahead with the project. And so it's important for us really to focus on improving where we need to be. And we are thankful that the ITU has made this project and made this facility available for us.
Well, across the globe, the month of February is celebrated as Heart Month. But for one well-known pediatric cardiologist, saving the smallest of hearts has been a decades-long quest. Jasmine Brown has his story.
Taking care of a heart patient is neither easy nor is it cheap, but there are those who dedicate their lives to doing just that. Dr. Jerome Lightbourne is one of those people. For the last 25 years, he has dedicated his life to saving little hearts. We met with Dr. Lightbourne at his Cable Beach practice, Bahamas Pediatrics. While there, we saw just how important his work is when a mother and her baby girl showed up for a visit. Dr. Lightbourne says over the years he has seen thousands of patients.
Looking at the young children, looking at the young parents, and seeing the effect you have on making a difference makes it worthwhile.
Heart disease is a very broad term for many things that can go wrong with the heart in both adults and children. The conditions encompass many different types of problems that range from a condition that has no symptoms and is never diagnosed to a problem that is severe and potentially life-threatening that is apparent at birth. Dr. Lightbourne says what's often scariest about the disease is the fact that it's unpredictable.
Unfortunately, though, I can't say you will have heart disease, what's your risk. There are certain conditions which increases the risk, like diabetes in mothers. They increase the risk of significant heart disease. So when you consider that we do not know, and most of the parents don't know, you're going through life, you're planning your home, you get married, you're starting a life, all of a sudden, Dr. Lightbourne is called to your room. People don't like to see me come into the room, but then you're gone. But they have significant heart disease. And the truth of the matter is that you don't have the funding. You're throwing off your whole plan.
Dr. Lightburn says that's why the Sir Victor Sassoon Heart Foundation has been so vital over the last 50-plus years. The foundation has helped thousands of kids get heart surgery by paying for those costly procedures, but the nonprofit is running dangerously low on funds. Like with so many other things, the COVID-19 pandemic has significantly impacted fundraising events like the Heart Ball, and that means there is no money for life-saving surgeries.
My greatest fear, and I'd be right on the verge right now, is to say we have a child, especially as somebody of non-Bahamian descent, who cannot travel because we cannot fix that child because no money. So please donate, donate, donate. $5, $10, $10,000, $100,000, $1 million would be great. Our budget probably should be running about $5 million a year. You're not even close to that.
To raise funds this year, the foundation is still asking for donations through its website, SassoonHeartFoundation.org. Reporting for our news, I'm Jasmine Brown.
Thanks, Jasmine. Tonight in sports, both of our NBA stars back in action as the NBA season rolls along. Marcellus Hall has the highlights.
Thanks and welcome to Sports on a Thursday, everybody. I'm Marcellus Hall. As you can tell, the NBA is back in full swing, and our NBA players both seen some action over the last couple of days. Let's get you all caught up on their performances. Grand Bahama native Buddy Hield and his Sacramento Kings hosting Eastern Conference leaders, the Philadelphia 76ers, on Tuesday night. Kings actually led the game 99-96 in the fourth quarter. They were going a scoreless streak, missing their next 7 shots. Sixers eventually take a 6-point lead, never looking back. They snapped the Kings' 4-game winning streak, 119-111. Buddy, 37 minutes on the floor. He would shoot 7 of 20 in the night, finish with 21 points, 8 rebounds, and 4 assists in a losing cause. Kings play again on Friday when they host the Orlando Magic. Sacramento now 12-12 on the year, sitting in 9th in the Western Conference. Now to DeAndre Ayton and the Phoenix Suns, who took the floor last evening against the Milwaukee Bucks. Bucks led by reigning league MVP Giannis Antetokounmpo. Jumped out early, but back come the Suns as they got 30 points from Devin Booker, 28 from Chris Paul to offset a 47-point performance by Giannis. Suns with their 4th win in a row, 125-124. Ayton, another solid night. He had 17 points, 7 rebounds in the ballgame on 7 of 10 shooting. This despite being in foul trouble. Suns will see action again on Saturday when they take on the Eastern Conference leaders, the Philadelphia 76ers. And that's your look at sports here on this Thursday. Don't forget tomorrow night to tune into the locker room as we bring you another exciting episode coming your way right here on our TV. I'm Marcellus Hall. Back to you.
Coming up, Greg is back in the Weather Center with a look ahead, plus adding a little spice to your Valentine's celebrations. Stay with us.
Welcome to our news and thanks for joining us. Topping news tonight.
COVID-19 remains a serious threat.
Coronavirus COVID-19 has disrupted our economy, tourism industry, educational system, and put our healthcare facilities and professionals on high alert. Are you prepared? Do you have all the facts? Stay tuned to this network for the very latest news and information on this global pandemic.
Welcome back to our news. Looks like we may have some breezy conditions ahead. Here's Greg back in the Weather Center.
Thanks again, Christina, and a happy Thursday, everybody. Beautiful conditions around the islands as a high-pressure system remains in charge of our weather, keeping all the systems to the north, well to the north of us. That high is going to slide out towards the east eventually, but we will still be in that high-pressure regime, so beautiful weather expected into the weekend. Boating forecast for the northwest Bahamas tonight through tomorrow. Your winds will be out of the east to southeast at around 15 knots. Seas will be running 3 to 5 feet over the ocean, while in the central and southeastern islands, we have a caution flag posted for you guys down there. East to southeasterly wind flows 15 to 20 knots, seas 4 to 6 feet. High tide will be at 7:46 tonight. Here's a look now at your national forecast. And now look at your extended forecast through Tuesday. That's a look at our weather. Have a safe night, everybody. Back to you, Christina.
Thanks, Greg. Well, from a candlelit bubble bath to trying a new couples game, spicing up your Valentine's Day doesn't have to be hard work. Our Jillian Gray chats with the owners of Vixen's Lair, who have a few tips.
Lay those teasers as you go about the day. So by the time you actually get to where you're trying to get, you would have already built the anticipation. In fact, the bigger the bill, the bigger the explosion.
That's Vixen's Lair co-owner Phil Culmer's advice for a steamy Valentine's evening. After 15 years of marriage, he said he's learned that keeping things interesting can be as simple as leaving small gifts around the house to make your partner feel special. The Culmers, who call themselves the Cupid of Love and the Naughty Cupid, have run Vixen's Lair for 8 years. Anishka Culmer says her key tip for clients is to always switch up their routine and take note of their partner.
Taking notes inside the bedroom means that all of your encounters, you're watching for cues.
Now, for those who want to spice up their love life, the owners of Vixen's Lair suggest not only focusing on your nighttime routine, but also your daytime routine, and that involves these love vouchers.
Well, like we have naughty vouchers where you can actually sign it up like a check and give it to your bae. And they can redeem it anytime they want. It can get really raunchy or really romantic, whichever book suits you.
The Culmers say they have games to help craft a special Valentine's night.
We have some dice here called glow-in-the-dark dice, which is very simple. All you do is you take the dice, you turn the lights off, and you throw them. Whatever they land on, you try. Now, I emphasize try, because you may not get it, but if you keep trying.
Visual cues also help to set the mood, according to the Culmers, who suggest filling the room with rose petals and candles for a change of scenery.
Lately, things have been rough all around the COVID environment, but we've been telling people you could pimp your own room, literally. You don't need to get an actual hotel room. You can take your bedroom, get some nice black Egyptian silk sheets. Get yourself some chocolate-covered strawberries. Get yourself some rose petals, some candles. Don't forget to get the small ones that actually float in the water. These are things that you can do right at home to actually change the ambiance.
Reporting for our News, I'm Jillian Gray.
Thanks for those tips, Jillian. And thank you for joining us for our news. On behalf of the entire team, I'm Christina Dragovich. We'll see you right back here tomorrow night. Have a beautiful evening, Bahamas.